Is CVS Health a good company to work for? In this video, we're going to be looking at CVS Health as an organization through the eyes of a job seeker, and just to determine whether this as an organization is a place where you want to invest time and your career and your career prospects, if you've got an opportunity lined up. And so with these videos, of course, we look at an organization through a couple different lenses, and we're going to be looking at CVS Health through the lens of resume appeal. So does the future you get a benefit from working at this organization today? And that's typically driven by kind of brand equity and different things like that. Is there enough economic incentive? So we like to, with companies that are publicly listed, at least look at things like stock price and things to determine whether there's economic incentive. We look at the benefits. We'll look at things like that just to get a sense of the organization as a whole, its values, what the company is about, to determine for ourselves whether this is a place that we want to work. And so let's dive right in with a little bit of background. So CVS Health, of course, is a Fortune, typically in the Fortune 5 or Fortune 10 highest revenue companies. It's one of the largest organizations in the world. Headquartered in Rhode Island, it was founded in 1963, and it actually encompasses quite a few different brands. I know a lot of us here in the States typically think of CVS as the pharmacies that you see, the kind of retail points that you see all over the country, but it's not only CVS Pharmacy, sorry, it's also CVS Health as an organization. So it has CVS Caremark, which is a pharmacy benefits manager. It also incorporates Aetna, which is an insurance provider. So there's a lot of different places within the organization that you can go and find a position. And the organization is, of course, a lot more diversified than just the retail pharmacy points that we see all over the country. As of 2020, the CVS Health was the seventh largest firm in the world by revenue. And it has 300,000 employees, so a very large employee base. And then, of course, it's a publicly listed company too. So as you're making a decision around whether an organization is a right fit for you, weigh those, at least top line, kind of very background level bits of information. Do you like to work at a public organization? Do you like big org charts for 300,000 people? Do you like to work at organizations with the kind of breadth and scale of products and services that a CVS Health would offer, and make that determination for yourself? So that's a little bit of background information. And then, of course, the next thing that we want to determine as we determine an opportunity is try to get an understanding of what the company sells and does on a products and services basis. And we touched on it a little bit there with the retail points and the different lines of businesses that it has. But a great place to start when we're thinking about this stuff is the company's homepage. And from here, we'll be able to kind of dive into the different career and jobs related information that we're going to need to make a determination as well. So here's the company homepage. It's of course very consumer focused, and because the footprint, at least of CVS for the layperson like myself, is going to be the retail points. And so we know that as an organization, they encompass, or they sell a lot of the day-to-day kind of healthcare things that we need, the aspirins, the Tylenols, the vitamins, personal care, things like that. So if that's an area of interest to you as a job seeker, if that's an area of CPGs and things like that household goods that you feel like you've got a bit of an affinity for in terms of where you want to spend time working, CVS Health is definitely maybe the top place to go for that. So that's a great page to kind of get that information. As a job seeker, of course, we want to dive into their careers portal, which is over here. Typically, most companies will have it at the bottom in the footer area of their website, but that's that there. And so once we dive into there, we learn a little bit more about CVS Health. We are the leading health solutions company delivering care in ways no one else can. Our purpose is simple and clear, bringing our heart to every moment of your health. Great mission statement, speaks a lot to kind of the overarching purpose of the company. It's a great looking page. So, we like to draw a parallel typically with the amount of effort that a company will put into a careers portal. Typically extrapolates out to the employee experience. So it looks like they put a lot of thought into this page and this section of the website. So it's good signs as a job seeker around the culture and the employee experience. So driven, of course, by the candidate experience. So here's a little bit about the company diversity, a little bit about the history. This is the company that was founded in 1963, so it's been around a long time. And so, definitely something to think about as you're making a decision around CVS Health as an employer. So just diving a little bit more into the company, we get to the actual careers page. This is important to see as a job seeker, especially with an organization as large as CVS Health. You want to be able to see, okay, there's a lot of different places that you can access job opportunities as a job seeker, right? So you could, if you're the kind of individual that's ambitious and is trying to chart a path up an organization, to be able to see the different places that you can actually apply your talents is a great sign. And it looks like there are a lot of different opportunities here that a job seeker could go to. So Aetna, retail, analytics, beauty. I bet there's a lot of things that, or a lot of functions that you wouldn't necessarily associate with working at a CVS, especially when you think of the pharmacy side, or at least the retail side. That there are definitely opportunities. And I mean, the health hub there looks like digital. So lots of cool opportunities, lots of cool functions to take a look at. The virtual job tryout process, this is pretty interesting. So that's something that we'll definitely want to dive into a little bit later. But before we do that, here's the page that looks at internships and after college opportunities. As with any large organization like this, they're vying for talent all the time, and then there's always a need to fill the talent pipeline. And the idea of trying to get people right when they come out of school, or when whatever level of school, undergrad, grad, doctorates, is a good idea. And so here's a page that's dedicated to just those kinds of opportunities, which, again, if you're at that age, or if you're at that stage of your career where that's interesting to you, or at least you're thinking about these kinds of opportunities, here's a great page that highlights a lot of that in terms of ways that you can get experience or get into the org chart right after school. So you've invested a lot of time and energy into your education, and now you want the chance to make your mark. Great line there. So next we'll dive into this diversity page. I think more and more we're seeing, of course, the importance of organizations tackling this issue and showcasing where they stand on the diversity and inclusion front. So here's another kind of call out of how big this organization is. 300,000 employees is really quite some scale. So and according to this page here, diversity touches every aspect of their business, which is great. Great to see that they've got a few different places. CVS ranks number 24th on Diversity Inc.'s top 50 companies list. That's cool. That's really interesting from a job seeker standpoint. To rank 24th as an organization this large, I can imagine that there are efforts internally to rank higher, especially as kind of one of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world. So it's great to see. Cool as a bit of information, or at least as an input in your decision making to weigh those kinds of things. So another highlight here around some of the groups that organization like this typically. So organizations that are this large typically do have kind of employee groups that target different, just different things. Like sometimes it's social issue related, sometimes it's kind of identity related. So here's a look at some of the different groups that are available at CVS Health, and then that's cool to see right away. Sometimes the affinity groups or things like that are behind at least the wall. You've got to get into the organization before you can see them. So that's quite cool to see right from the start. And just speaks again to kind of their dedication to diversity, which is excellent to see. Earlier, something that caught my eye at least was the virtual job tryout. And so this is the page that speaks to that process there. CVS Health screens over 1 million job applicants a year. It makes a lot of sense considering the scale of the organization. And so they try and do virtual job tryouts to get as many people through to take a look at the vetting process as possible. So this is something that's interesting, something that I think if you were vying for an opportunity at CVS Health would be something to look at. I think it's a cool thing to ask about. It looks like there's a realistic job preview, situational judgment exercise. That's quite cool. It's like a practical kind of test to see where you are. Data accuracy check, key drivers, what motivates you. So cool initiative here. Definitely something that I haven't seen a lot of with different companies. So it's a cool talent acquisition and hiring initiative. Something that I think would be good to ask about or learn a little bit more if you were actually trying out for a job at CVS Health. Okay, so we've had a look at the company through the lens of what it sells and then the kind of the core business function. We've also taken a look at some of the different areas of the careers site. So we've had a look at their jobs page. We've had a look at the different places that you can apply your talents, so the different functions that exist. We've had a look at their post education or college education opportunities. We've had a look at their diversity page. So we've got a real nice sense of what the organization is about from a candidate experience standpoint. So the next thing I think is important to look at is just diving into some of the social media aspects of the organization, so that we can learn a little bit more about Tenure, a little bit more about what the company's values are, and how we do that. The first place we go is, of course, is LinkedIn. With organizations like this, not all organizations use social media the same way. A lot of them will use it, depending on their business. Some of them will use it as truly their kind of like an advertising mechanism for their products and services. Some of them will use them purely as employer brand experience kind of thing. So here's CVS though, and what you can see is for CVS Health at least, that they're showing a lot of what it's like to work there. And this is LinkedIn, so that would make a lot of sense. But with LinkedIn, you just want to get a sense of tenure, right? So an organization with 300,000 employees is massive. And the median tenure, according to LinkedIn, is 4.8 years. That's well above average in this day and age in terms of tenure. And you got to think across an entire org chart, how many people and how many levels of talent, and typically how long people stay in an organization at different levels. 4.8 really is strong in terms of tenure. And then 2% headcount growth over the last 6 months. So thinking about the macroeconomic conditions at the minute, with COVID and how much turnover there is, the great resignation that's written about a lot in the news, to grow headcount even at this point, I think is a good sign, especially with how hard it is to get talent, how hard it is to keep hold of talent too. So those are two good indicators there. Again, stuff that you can kind of put into your equation as you're determining whether CVS is a good company for you. The next thing I typically like to look at is their Instagram, or just social media in general, to get a sense of how they're using it, for one, and then two, whether they're attaching the brand to different values and issues that you as a job seeker can then weigh whether that jives with what you agree with as an individual, or whether you want to work at a company that attaches itself to those things too. So with CVS, as with a lot of larger organizations, they've got 2 Instagram accounts at least, and we'll showcase Instagram here. One that is CVS Health, so that's where you can kind of see a lot of how the organization looks at from a top level, the issues that they're attaching themselves to, and then they also have the retail storefront too. And by the looks of it, they've got a few more here. So Instagram's a good place to take a look and just kind of dive around to see what the company is about. So with their at least CVS Health page, you're seeing different social issues, different health issues that the company is raising around, and showcasing. So that's good to see and good to know from a job seeker standpoint. For the actual retail or pharmacy page, it's similar. I mean, it's a little bit more fun than the corporate page, I'd say. So you can kind of attach yourself or see yourself attaching to certain issues here, certain kind of initiatives or programs that you can see, but it's a little bit more fun. But again, one of those things that when you're making a decision as a job seeker, definitely go take a look at to see what the companies are about and at that level. So, but in terms of red flags, I don't think there are very many or any at all, and it just looks like a fun kind of definitely healthcare driven place to work. So. That's that. The next thing you typically like to look at is the organization from a media perspective, and really this is to really glean nothing more than just general sentiment around how the media is viewing the organization, and then you can also see if there are certain issues that are being pulled out in the media, so that you have an understanding, of course, of the general consensus or the general view of the organization. And with CVS Health, at least in a Google News search, it really is very, very clean. I mean, some of the larger firms in the world that take arrows from different places all the time, CVS, I'd say this is actually one of the cleaner ones that I've actually come across. So a lot of talk about where they're investing, a lot of talk about how they're hiring, a lot of talk around how their strategy talk too. So this is, I mean, really one of the cleaner news feeds I've seen around a company. So that I think from if you just want to talk about averages, this is an above average media outlook. But again, one of those things I think as a job seeker, you definitely want to look at yourself and take a look through. So that's very good there. And then finally, I think just from an economic incentive, publicly listed company, and then, for nothing more than just to see what the markets this time, as opposed to the media, the markets view as the general outlook of the organization. We'd like to look at the stock price. With publicly listed companies too, maybe there are options around getting stock units or things like that. So that's something that you have to weigh when you're making your decision. But here's the 5-year chart going back, and looks like there's a little bit of a dip there. I suppose there's a lot of disruption in the healthcare space, and there are a lot of players, I think, that always threaten to enter the space. You can imagine Amazon and stuff, and I can imagine that that weighs a lot on the stock price. But that's something to weigh when you're thinking about an employment decision. But generally, I think all signs so far point to a very solid kind of company. You remember this is a 110 billion market cap, 300,000 employees. So I think they're doing something right. Okay. So just kind of recapping CVS Health. We've had a look at what the company sells, what the kind of core business of the company is. We remember that it's not just the retail footprint; it's also the pharmacy benefits management company that they have, the CVS Caremark. They've also got Aetna. So there's a lot of different places where you can apply talent, your talent, to an organization like CVS. Remember that this is one of the largest companies in the world by revenue. This is always within the top 10 in terms of the Fortune Global 500. We've had a look at the company through the lens of what it's like to work there as an employee. So we've had a look at the benefits. We've had a look at the different programs that they have on offer. We've had a look at their diversity and inclusion focus. We've taken a look at the media. So what does the media think of the company? And that was, as I mentioned, one of the cleaner looks I've seen. We've had a look at their social media to take a look at what the company is about from a value standpoint and what they're portraying, at least on social media. We saw that tenure is well above average for this organization, and headcount growth is positive too, considering the macroeconomic conditions. And then we had a look at stock price just to get a sense of what the market thinks of the organization over time. So a lot of different inputs there, but I think a lot of different ways to think about a job opportunity, and in your decision as you consider whether CVS Health is a good place for you to work going into the future.